As a DJ, business owner, part-time producer, and overall creative person, I spend a lot of time at my desk. When you wear a lot of hats, it's so important to have a comfortable, ergonomic workspace that can adapt and meet the demands each workday brings. And I think I finally found a desk that checks all the boxes and can help you work better and live healthier. Hi, I'm DJ Nonay, and today we're going to be taking a look at the UPLIFT V3 standing desk to see how it can improve your productivity, whether you're a DJ, music producer, business owner, or just someone who spends a ton of time at their desk. This video is not sponsored, but the good people at UPLIFT Desk did send me this desk for me to test and give my honest opinion. So huge thanks to them for the support. Now, if you're like me, you've been through a lot of different desk setups through the years. They've ranged from a DIY setup using a scrap piece of MDF attached to an old keyboard stand, all the way to one that I hodgepodged together during the pandemic. And while there's nothing wrong with using what you have to get the job done, I recently relocated my home office into a larger room that has more space for product demos and reviews. In this season of my life, I wanted something that was not only high quality, but also looked great on camera for content and had built-in wire management to keep everything looking nice and clean and less tempting for my toddler to get into. Before making the plunge, I was still using the cheap standing desk that I put together during the pandemic. And it worked, but as I added and removed devices over time, the wire management just became a complete rat's nest nightmare. I also found myself struggling with how shallow the desk's depth was. Because I use an ultra-wide monitor, I would often have my mouse and keyboard almost on the edge of my desk so I wasn't so close to the monitor. And on top of that, the desk frame didn't go low enough for my feet to comfortably rest on the floor, so I had to use a footrest. These issues led to persistent wrist and lower back pain. So I knew it was time for a change. Enter the UPLIFT V3 standing desk. When the UPLIFT team reached out, they sent me to the desk product page to select the desk configuration I wanted. Now, while having a lot of choices can be overwhelming at times, I thought this page was really well laid out and intuitive, and I enjoyed picking the desktop style, the desktop size, the frame color, and a wide variety of accessories and free gifts. It was really cool to see the 3D visualizer update based on the configuration I selected, and you can even animate raising and lowering the desk. I ended up going with the 72 by 30 inch desk with a walnut butcher block top and a black frame. UPLIFT Desk also threw in a ton of accessories that I knew would make a difference in my productivity and in wire management. Now, when the desk order arrived, it came in a number of boxes, but it was extremely well packaged. I laid the heavy desktop in the center of my floor and got to work attaching the crossbar first. All the holes for setting up the desk came pre-drilled, so I didn't have to worry about making pilot holes or about things being off-center or misaligned. Now, I did have a slight mix-up with the hole placement for attaching the crossbar, but that was pure user error, and I eventually figured it out, thanks to their instructions. One thing I'll say is that for the desk and all its accessories, the instructions were very detailed, and a lot of the instructions for the desk assembly included QR codes that linked to videos that show you exactly how to get through that step. So I found that very helpful when I got stuck. Next, I attached the legs, the soft roll casters, the keypad, the cable manager support brackets, and finally, the desk drawer. Now, the desk drawer was the only accessory that didn't have pre-drilled holes, and I did have to use my own tools to make a pilot hole, but it did come with a cardboard template that made that super easy. I just followed the instructions and double and triple checked to make sure it was aligned with the front edge of the desk. When I was done attaching everything under the desk, I got some help from my husband to flip it over, and I then rolled it into place. Next came the fun part. Wire management. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to upgrade my desk was wire management. So this honestly was the part I was the most excited about. The first thing I installed were the grommet inserts into the pre-cut holes on the desktop. I went with the power grommet with USB and the pop-up power grommet, and both of these immediately made the desk feel more functional for the way I actually work. Whether I'm plugging in DJ gear to practice, production gear, or charging devices, having power easily accessible from the top of the desk is just so much more convenient than reaching underneath it all the time. For power underneath the desk, I installed 2 of UPLIFT Desk's 8-outlet mountable surge protectors on the center support, one on the left side and one on the right. Now, since I use a lot of power devices, I wanted enough outlets to keep everything organized and permanently connected where possible. I also appreciated that the desk already had mounting holes for that as well, ready to go, so that made installation really straightforward. Next, I set up the Crestview single monitor arm. I like that it includes an optional wiring kit that extends access to 2 USB ports and 2 headphone jacks, which is especially helpful for a plug-and-play workflow. Installing my ultra-wide monitor was pretty straightforward overall. Now, it is a heavier monitor, so it took a little bit of time to dial in the tension properly on that monitor arm, but once I got it adjusted, it felt really secure. Plus, having the ability to reposition the monitor more easily is a huge plus when switching between sitting and standing. Once everything was mounted, I started routing the cables through the monitor arm's integrated cable channel and bundling things together as I went with Velcro strips to keep the wiring clean and uniform. My goal was to make the setup look clean from every angle, especially since this desk also lives on camera in my content. Now, after I connected the rest of my core devices, it was time to bring it all together with the Flex Mount Cable Manager, and this ended up being one of my favorite parts of the whole setup. It has a simple but really smart design. It's basically a thick, flexible felt tray that hooks onto support brackets and holds all the hanging cables underneath the desk. It doesn't just hide the mess, it makes the whole setup easier to manage as your gear changes over time. And that part's important to me because my workspace is never static. I'm constantly adding, removing, and testing gear depending on what I'm working on. So I didn't just need cable management to look clean on day one, I needed it to stay practical long term. As a final touch, I labeled all the power cables behind the desk so I'd know exactly what to unplug if I ever needed to troubleshoot or swap something out. Once all of that was finished, I added a few final touches like smart mood lighting and the headphone stand that UPLIFT desk also sent over. And at that point, the setup finally felt complete. Clean, functional, and ready to support all the different ways that I work. What I really like about this desk is that it adapts really well to the different roles I move through during the week. As a DJ and business owner, there's so much work that happens behind the scenes before anyone ever sees you perform. I'm answering client inquiries, sending agreements, sending invoices, doing event consultations, organizing music, prepping crates, and handling all the admin work that keeps the business running. Those tasks can mean long stretches at the desk, and being able to raise the UPLIFT V3 standing desk at the press of a button really helps break up that sitting time so I don't feel glued to my chair all day. It's also great for DJ practice sessions. With the power grommets that they included, I can quickly plug in my controller, get everything powered up, adjust the desk to a height that feels comfortable for practicing my cuts and recording custom mixes for clients, and pair that with the E7 Active Anti-Fatigue Mat. Standing for longer sessions feels a lot easier on my knees and back. And when I want a little support without fully sitting back down, the Starling stool is a really nice in-between option. This desk also makes a lot of sense as a part-time producer. Anyone who produces knows how easy it is to lose track of time when you're deep into a session, searching for that right kick or snare, arranging an edit or a remix, mixing a track, or just sitting in a focused listening session. It's easy to stay locked in for hours on end. And being able to alternate between sitting and standing helps to break up those long stretches and keeps me from feeling as stiff in my neck, shoulders, and back. The larger desktop also gives me more room for all my MIDI devices, and the easy access to power makes it simple to connect whatever I need without interrupting the flow. Plus, the desk drawer is perfect for keeping smaller tools and accessories close by without cluttering the work surface. This desk also supports the creative side of my work. A lot of content creation happens at the desk: brainstorming, writing scripts, editing footage, planning content calendars. The list goes on and on. So having a workspace that feels good to sit or stand at really helps with those long hours that come with that kind of work. On top of that, this desk itself looks beautiful in person and on camera. And that matters to me because my workspace is often part of the content, as you can see here. Whether I'm filming top-down shots, recording talking head segments, or just creating in a space that feels polished and inspiring, this desk fits right into that whole process. So more than anything, what makes this desk stand out to me is its versatility. It doesn't force me into one way of working. It supports the fact that I wear a lot of hats and that my workspace needs to move with me. The UPLIFT V3 standing desk is great by itself, but here are the features and accessories that transformed it from just a desk into a workspace that truly fits my workflow. First, I love that this desk can lower more than my old one. Now that might sound silly and like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference because now I can sit with proper posture and actually have my feet resting comfortably on the floor. That alone makes this setup feel much more ergonomic for long work sessions. Second, the 30-inch depth has been a game changer. My old desk had a 24-inch depth, and since I have an ultra-wide monitor, having that extra depth gives me more breathing room and keeps my keyboard and mouse from feeling like I have to have them hanging off the edge of the desk. It just feels so much more comfortable and more practical. As I mentioned before, another huge win for me is the wire management. The two 8-outlet surge protectors mounted under the desk make it so much easier to keep everything organized and powered without cables going everywhere. And that flex mount cable manager really ties it all together because it keeps things neat underneath the desk without making me feel like every single cable has to be perfectly routed forever. As someone who is constantly swapping gear in and out, that flexibility really matters. The power grommet and pop-up power grommet are also some of my favorite additions. They make it incredibly easy to plug in my DJ gear, charge devices, or switch into producer mode without having to crawl under the desk. I also really like the desk drawer and the 3-drawer file cabinet that UPLIFT Desk sent me. They help keep smaller accessories, paperwork, and random tools out of sight, but still within reach. So that keeps the desktop clean and more intentional. And finally, the Bluetooth dongle and the UPLIFT Desk app are a really nice touch because they make it easy to control and customize the desk in a way that feels modern and convenient. In the long run, the biggest benefit of the UPLIFT V3 standing desk for me is how it supports better work habits. I'm not in my 20s anymore, and these days the aches and pains can show up a whole lot faster than they used to. What I really appreciate is not being stuck in one position all day. I've noticed that even when I take short standing breaks throughout the workday, I feel more focused, more energized, and honestly just less stiff overall. It's almost as if I'm hitting a reset button on my brain. And because my setup is more clean and less cluttered, I also feel like I can think more clearly and work more efficiently. Now, the configuration I chose costs around $1,800 retail at the time of filming. So no, it's definitely not the cheapest desk option out there, but it's also one of those purchases that I think is worth looking into as an investment in your body and in your daily quality of life. I kind of think of it similar to investing in a quality mattress. We spend about 8 hours every night sleeping, so most people understand why it's worth investing in something supportive and well made. But we also spend a huge part of our lives working, creating, editing, planning, and building at our desks. So if your workspace is causing back pain, stiffness, bad posture, or fatigue, that really can take a toll on you over time as well. For me, investing in a high-quality, ergonomic workspace just makes sense. And the fact that UPLIFT backs the desk and accessories with a 15-year warranty, which is just incredible, it gives me even more confidence that this is something that is built to last. So my final verdict, I give the UPLIFT V3 standing desk a 9 out of 10. It's sturdy, highly customizable, looks beautiful on camera, and most importantly, it supports the way I actually work from day to day. Whether I'm answering emails, prepping music, practicing DJing, producing, or just trying to make it through a long day of work, this desk gives me the flexibility to work in a way that feels better physically and mentally. My only real caution is that I think the price can climb pretty quickly once you start adding accessories, so this is definitely more of an investment piece than a budget desk. So it's important to be intentional about which add-ons you actually need for your workflow. But for me, the improvement in comfort, organization, aesthetics, and overall workflow with all that different hats I wear makes that investment make sense. So yes, if you're someone who spends serious time at your desk and you want a setup that helps you work better and live healthier, I think the UPLIFT V3 standing desk is a really strong option. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.